Hello, welcome back. I hope you all had a great weekend. Because we had that snow day last week, today our story is all about Groundhog's Day. Groundhog's Day is on February 2nd every year. And our story today is all about Groundhog's Day. I'm going to the beginning of our story so I can show you. There. Now, this story is called Groundhog's Dilemma. And the story is about Groundhog making his prediction for whether we will have 6 more weeks of winter or spring coming soon. This year, Groundhog's Day in 2021, Punxsutawney Phil, which is the name of the groundhog in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, he saw his shadow and he predicted that there would be 6 more weeks of winter. Let me show you a picture of Punxsutawney Phil. Here he is. Oh, I lost that photo. Let me go back. Here is Punxsutawney Phil. And this is him looking down on his shadow. Let me zoom in so you can see him bigger. Here he is. He's looking down and he sees his shadow. Let's start our story, Groundhog's Dilemma by Kristen Remenar, illustrated by Matt Faulkner. I see my shadow, Groundhog declared. Half the animals cheered, the other half groaned. 6 more weeks of winter. Back to sleep, says Bear. Yay, says Rabbit. Stuck in the nest for 6 more weeks. I'll go nuts, says Squirrel. An early spring would have been nice, says the bird. Groundhog's shoulders slumped. I just call it like I see it, he mumbled, heading back into his den for a good long nap. Spring finally arrived, and everyone came out to look for food. We could have had fresh berries 6 weeks ago if someone hadn't seen his shadow. I liked wearing my white fur a bit longer this year. Thanks, Groundhoggy, said the rabbit. I only reported what I saw. Still, I appreciate it. Have some berries. This exchange between Groundhog and Rabbit did not go unnoticed. The next morning, Squirrel stopped by for a visit. Groundhog, my pal, want to sit with me at the ball game today? I'll share my peanuts, he said. Really? Gee, thanks, replied Groundhog. Anything for a friend. Maybe next February you could return the favor by making spring come early, Squirrel suggested. Well, I actually don't control the weather. I just report it. Think it over. That afternoon, Bear clapped a paw on Groundhog's shoulder. How would you like to play catch after the game? Bear offered. I don't know. Usually you get mad because I keep dropping the ball, Groundhog said. Well, today I'm in a good mood, and if I get 6 extra sleeps, if I get 6 extra weeks of sleep next winter, I'll be in a good enough mood to teach you how to throw, Bear replied. Groundhog says, really, all I do is... And he got cut off. Just before the game began, Sparrow called out encouragingly to Groundhog, I'm sure we can find a position for the guy who can make spring come early. Groundhog opened his mouth to protest, but he looked longingly at the team warming up. Sparrow says, want to play? Groundhog says, me? An early spring sounds good to me, Sparrow. That evening, Hare stopped by. Groundhoggy, you do like seeing me in my pretty white coat, don't you? What is Hare, or the rabbit, holding? She is holding a pie. Nice, warm, big pie. I wonder if Groundhog likes to eat pie. He says. Don't you want a longer winter next year so I can wear it for 6 extra weeks? Oh, yes. So you'll see your shadow on February 2nd? Uh-huh. Over the next several months, Groundhog's social calendar was full of ball games, picnics, and bonfires. On the first frost-covered morning in late fall, a crowd gathered at Groundhog's door. Don't forget early spring. I like my winter sleep. And early spring means more time for baseball. You know I love my winter white, Groundhoggy. What are all of Groundhoggy's friends trying to tell him? As Groundhog settled in for the winter, he felt restless. One snowy night, he left his den looking for help. Owl, said Groundhog, I need some advice. Squirrel and Sparrow want an early spring, but Hare and Bear want a longer winter. I've said yes to everyone because I want them to like me. I don't control the weather. I just predict it. To see or not to see your shadow, that is the question, said Owl. You got yourself into this, Groundhog. You'll have to get yourself out. But I'd appreciate it if you could make spring come early. Winter is tough on my old bones, said Owl. Uh-oh. Groundhog slunk back to his den. He spent several restless weeks mulling over his options before sinking into an uneasy sleep. February 2nd dawned chilly and bleak. Groundhog looked up at the partly cloudy sky. He looked around at the expectant faces. He looked down at the ground, and he didn't know if he saw his shadow. Do you see your shadow or not? Groundhoggy. There are his friends. They're looking on. How do you think they feel? Let's look at their faces. Let's start with the owl. His eyes are closed. Maybe he's still sleeping. Bear. Bear looks pretty content. We have Sparrow looking on. Squirrel has her hands on her hips. Rabbit is looking on excitedly. Let's see. Then the sun broke free of the clouds and shone brightly. Groundhog knew that no matter what he said, spring would come when it wanted to, and either way, someone would be angry. All he had to do was tell the truth. I'm going to pause here. Let's make a prediction. Does Groundhog see his shadow? Do you see Groundhog's shadow? If you look down at the bottom of the page here, I do see Groundhog's shadow. What do you think he'll say? 6 more weeks of winter. So Groundhog took a deep breath, puffed up his chest. I see my shadow, he announced. Half the animals cheered, the other half groaned. Hey, I thought we were friends. Drat. Yes. Yay. We are friends. You're all my friends. Groundhog sighed. I promised you what you wanted so you would stay friends with me. Groundhog hung his head. I'm sorry, everyone. I shouldn't have pretended that I could control the weather. I just call it like I see it. That's all. Rabbit says, it's not because of your job that we're your friends. Squirrel says, well, not only because of it. Groundhog looked up at them, grumpy and hungry from months of cold. I know it doesn't make what I did right, but maybe you'd like to join me for hot chocolate and snacks, he asked. 6 weeks will go by faster with a full stomach. One of the animals is waiting with a fork and knife. What animal is holding a fork and a knife? Did you get it? If not, I'll give you a choice. Is it sparrow or owl? Owl! Owl is holding the fork and knife. With some grumbling and squeezing, everyone joined Groundhog. They ate, talked, and laughed until they were stuffed and sleepy again. Back to the den. Sparrow, Groundhog said, I know you're angry, but I'd still like to play baseball with you in the spring. Sparrow smiled. We could use a good umpire. Groundhog grinned. I'll call it like I see it. Six weeks later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Play ball. The end. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I will see you on Zoom. Bye-bye.